The year one turned 12, my father took me to the train station, not to catch a train, but to watch them. It was his idea of a shared hobby, a bridge built over the chasm of silence that had grown between us since the divorce. He'd point at an incoming locomotive, a silver bullet of the Aseela, and say, "That one's on a tight schedule. Every second is accounted for." Then he'd gesture to a rumbling, graffiti-tagged freight train, its cars a chain of rust and mystery. "That one," he'd muse, "answers to no one. It'll get there when it gets there." I didn't care about schedules. I cared about the people. I saw a woman in a red coat, clutching the handle of a small suitcase, her face pressed to the window. Her expression was a mixture of anticipation and sorrow, and I invented a life for her. She was leaving a lover, or going to a sick mother. A few platforms away, a family with 3 screaming kids and a mountain of luggage wrestled with tickets and time. Their path was chaotic, cluttered. Ours, standing on the observation deck, was static. We were the fixed point, and the world flowed past us in a series of fleeting, divergent narratives. 20 years later, I was the woman in the window. My train sliced through the countryside, a steel needle stitching together the miles between my new life in the city and the old one I'd left behind. My father was sick. The word felt inadequate, a pebble thrown into a deep well, the echo of its true meaning a terminal lost in the vast, dark space. I was on the Aseela, the very train he'd once described. Every second was, indeed, accounted for. I had a presentation due tomorrow, emails piling up in my inbox, and a cat I'd left with a neighbor. My life was a tight schedule, and this journey was an unscheduled, terrifying deviation. The man across the aisle was asleep, his head lolling against the window, a paperback splayed open on his chest. He was on a different path, with a different timing. His journey was probably a vacation, a return from a business trip. He had the luxury of sleep. I envied him his oblivion. My father was in a room at the end of a long, linoleum-scented corridor. He was thinner, diminished, the strong hands that had once pointed out locomotives now pale and still on the thin hospital blanket. The Aseela's precision was a cruel joke here. Time in a hospital room wasn't measured in minutes, but in the shallow rhythm of breath, in the slow drip of an 4. "Remember the trains?" I asked, pulling up a chair. It felt like a ridiculous thing to say, but it was the only bridge I knew how to build. A flicker of a smile touched his lips. "The freight train," he whispered, his voice a dry rustle. "Answers to no one." And there it was. The profound truth he'd been trying to show me all those years ago. He wasn't just talking about trains. He was talking about life, about the paths we choose and the timings imposed upon us. My mother had left on a fast train, a clean break, a new schedule. He had stayed, a slow, heavy freight train, burdened with memory and a quieter kind of love. And now, he was on the final, unknown leg of his journey, a path with a timing no one could predict. I stayed for a week. I let the presentation die. I let the emails go unanswered. I stepped off my own frantic schedule and onto his. We didn't talk much. We didn't need to. We just sat together, watching the light change across the room, the shadows lengthening and retreating like tides. We were 2 trains, finally in the same station, at the same time. After the funeral, I didn't take the Aseela back. I couldn't face its urgent, purposeful speed. Instead, I found the slow train, the one that stopped at every small, forgotten town. It was an old Amtrak, with worn velvet seats and a dining car that served bad coffee. It was a train that answered to no one. I watched the world crawl by. A boy on a bike waved at the crossing. An old woman hung laundry in her backyard. A field of sunflowers, heavy with seed, bowed their heads toward the fading sun. These were the moments the Aseela blurred into irrelevance. These were the moments my father had been trying to show me. A young couple sat a few rows ahead, their heads close together, sharing a pair of earbuds. They were on a path of beginnings. An elderly man across from me carefully unwrapped a sandwich, his movements slow and deliberate. He was on a path of quiet continuance. We were all on different paths, with different timings, brought together for a few shared hours by the simple, uniting fact of a journey. I thought of the woman in the red coat I'd seen as a girl. I finally understood her expression. It wasn't just anticipation or sorrow. It was the complex, unbearable weight of loving someone on a different schedule, of living a life that was pulling you in one direction while your heart strained in another. My father's final gift to me wasn't a hobby. It was the understanding that our lives are not a single track. They are a vast, sprawling rail yard. Some paths are express, some are local, some timings are precise, some are mercifully vague. The trick, the grace, is not in keeping to a schedule, but in recognizing the moments when your path intersects with another's, and having the courage to stop, to step off your own train, and just be there, in the same station, for as long as the schedule allows. The train I was on was slow. It stopped at every station, and for the first time in a long time, I was in no hurry to get where I was going.